This is In Depth. It has been an Evansville treasure spanning 3 centuries. The University of Evansville, though, is now in turmoil. If you know your history about this school, it's not the first time its journey has crossed critical thresholds. The university has a plan to cut 3 programs. 17, 18 majors and termination notices have been sent to faculty. Joining me tonight is UE President Christopher Petruskevich on the left, and Bob Jones, a member of the UE Board of Trustees. Thanks for being here, gentlemen. First up, this pushback is much bigger inside the campus and outside than most people thought it would be. What do you say to those students and professors on campus now who are being directly impacted by this plan? I'll direct that to you, President Petruskevich, first.
Well, I'm not surprised by the response. It's wonderful to be able to see the passion of people for their university. We've heard not only from our faculty and our students, but also from our alumni. But we also know that for the future of the institution, it has to be sustainable. And that's the reason why we have a draft plan. And what I'm delighted to hear is that we're having conversations with faculty members that are affected by the cuts. And they have been providing proposals that we think might be very helpful in the final plan. So this, while we're hearing a lot about this in the media, we're having some very productive conversations that I hope works well when we come to our final plan.
Bob Jones, I'll direct this to you. There's a perception that UE is re-identifying itself. It's transforming itself into a new image. It will no longer be viewed as a liberal arts school. What do you say to that? And President Petruskevich was talking about communication, but that's been a big complaint from students and faculty, that there's been a serious lack thereof, not only with the administration, but with the Board of Trustees. What's your response?
I appreciate that, Brett. You know, I'm a graduate of liberal arts school myself. I went to a small school in Ohio, and I would say that what we're trying to transform ourselves into is the liberal arts school of the 21st century. We're going to still have well over half our students in liberal arts. We're going to have great focus on many of those majors, like our theater department, our archaeology department. So it's really about focus, and it's really about coming into the 21st century and being prepared for what we need to do.
But would you say, and I'll direct this to both of you, would you say that music, history, computer science, and religion are not part of that picture in the 21st century?
Yeah, I think the thing to remember, Brad, is while we may not have majors in many of those areas, we're going to still offer those classes. You know, I took a philosophy class. We didn't have a major at Ashland, but we'll still offer those classes in many cases, and I think that's part of the liberal arts education.
And President Petruskevich, I'll stay on that topic. Okay, say like if you want to be a history major or a music major, and you're considering the University of Evansville, you're faced with the reality, at least within the next 2 years, you'll be able to take those history classes, but you can't get a major. Will that impact enrollment, in your opinion?
Well, I think it might have a dip in enrollment initially, but the idea is that we want to put our resources into places that have exponentially growth opportunities. And one of those areas tends to be health sciences. Bob mentioned theater and archaeology. Those areas are traditional liberal arts areas that we would hope to be able to grow in the future. So I don't look at this as moving away from the liberal arts at all. In fact, we'll still have over 60 majors, and our faculty members will still number over 60 in the College of Arts and Sciences.
Bob Jones, I couldn't think of anyone I'd want to talk about finances with than you, and I know with UE being a private school, you don't have to divulge certain financial information, but I'm going to ask anyway. How many millions of dollars are we talking about here as far as the deficit that UE is facing? And how did we get to that point?
Well, you know, part of it's driven by enrollment. We've seen, since 2015, we've seen an enrollment dip of 17%, and that's where most of our revenue comes from. I'll put it this way, Brad. We're in a path of not being able to sustain losses in excess of $1 million per year. And, you know, that's not a path that's going to create the university that we need for the next century.
And Bob, I want to pose this to you. There is no white knight like William Ridgway, if I understand this. But are you trying, is the board trying to appeal to potential donors in the community right now,
Sure.
possibly to get
Brad,
out of this jam?
Yeah, absolutely. But I would also offer that getting that white knight like Bill Ridgway, who was just a great friend of the university, solves the problem for the immediate time, but we're really looking at a long-term salvation for this university. It is such a gem for for Evansville. We want it to be here for the next 100 years. Getting that white knight today doesn't allow us to really look at that long-term plan. What we need to do is get, as Chris said, get focused on those areas that are our strengths and go forward.
President Petroskevich, UE is calling this a provisional plan, and you said at the beginning that you're very impressed with the fact that there are conversations that are being held with faculty members. Are those faculty members who've already received their potential pink slips? And tell me about that. What can you share about that?
Well, there's continuing conversations. We have invited our faculty, whether they are in impacted departments or otherwise, to provide some proposals, and there have been some excellent conversations with our provost. We look forward to receiving more, and if we haven't received some from some of the impacted departments, we hope that they'll submit some. That is the whole idea of why we've described this as a draft plan.
Bob Jones?
It is not a finalized plan, and we look forward to more proposals to perhaps get us to a better place than we started.
Okay, with that being said then, Bob Jones, is there some wavering with the board, on the board, that some of these cuts may be too deep and that things could possibly be saved by going to other avenues? And that will lead me up to the next question about athletics. But how is the board right now feeling about this?
Well, I think the board is looking for the input from our faculty members. That's why Chris has put out a draft plan. I think that's what we're encouraged by is the energy and emotion that's come about from this plan, because we, as Chris said, we're getting some really positive feedback and some great ideas. And, you know, as we get all those together, we'll look at them. Our goal is to do what's right for the long-term benefit of the university.
Both of you gentlemen, I've got just about a minute left. Time does fly by on these, but I'm getting feedback from individuals who have reached out to me talking about the debate, once again, about potentially, in all due respect to those athletes, hardworking athletes at UE, converting UE back to a Division II school in athletics. What's your gut reaction on that, President Petroskevich?
Well, I think we have to clear up some inaccurate information first. I know Professor Byrne was on InDEPTH on Friday and mentioned that the athletic department's losing $12 million. That's not only inaccurate, it's wildly inaccurate. And I've also read in social media that, you know, the athletic department's losing $4 or $5 million a year. That's only not accurate, it's also wildly inaccurate. So there are lots of discussions, as I have said, throughout the course of the entire draft proposal on the academic side, that once we talk with our faculty about the academic proposals, there'll be some changes that will happen to the rest of the university, including in the administration and including in athletics.
Well, Bob Jones,
I think it's important to clear up the information about some information about how much the athletic department is spending that is not accurate.
Well, we'll have to continue that conversation. Bob Jones and President Petroskevich, thank you so much. I have one New Year's resolution. It would be wonderful. I've said this before, when I have two opposing dynamics, if I could get both sides on the air at the same time, that's what I want to strive for in this. I'm not a mediator by any means, but I'd like to get both sides on the air at the same time, and I hope you'll consider that for us.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brad.
All righty. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe. Eyewitness News at 9 will continue in just a moment.